BBC Introducing.
And it's time for BBC Introducing now. For us here on the Asian Network, especially on the Friction Show, it's not just about established artists, even though we love them, some of them are our best friends. It's also about new artists coming through and grabbing hold of your heart and your head. And that's why we do BBC Introducing. That's what Introducing is all about. It is no different today, and I'm very pleased to introduce you guys to a rock band from New Delhi called Punkh. I have Deepak from Punkh on the line now, from India. Deepak, thanks for staying up late for us, my friend.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for having us or me on the show.
It's all good, man. It's all good. So lots of people, especially over here in the UK, won't know who Punkh are. So just tell us about how you guys started and talk us up to where you are right now.
Right. I think the roots for Punkh were laid back in '96 because I still have a member from the band I had back in '96. Over the period of time, it's been 16 years, and right now Punkh is basically a group of guys who got together, having played in different bands and having played a lot of commercial music. Now is the time when we want to be a band which could play edgy music, maybe a little more alternate music, which we really didn't want to be commercial with it. And at the same time, we wanted to be a band that could just come into a room and play music for each other. So that was the deal, and it took about 2 years, and this is what we have now, the 5 guys.
And of course, you're a fully live band. You're not electronic in the sense that there's not just one producer at work. You guys, like the good old days, get together in a studio and you jam your ideas out, correct?
Yes, that's it, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so tell us a bit about what's happening for you guys right now. How would you describe Punkh, the band, as a sound? I mean, I've got my own ideas, but maybe I should just zip my mouth. How do you describe Punkh as a sound?
Honestly, we wanted to have a special sound for every album we do, That's the deal, because we have varied influences, everything from Lemon Jelly down to Led Zeppelin, and there are some guys heavily into electronic music as well, and also jazz. So we thought that maybe like our last album had a very electronic drift to it. We had a rapper from Germany who had come and done some hip-hop bits there. And this album, the new one we have, Karma, it's hard rock, and our next album we want to go glam rock, So being in India, I think you would understand better that it took us at least 20 years to get everything before you guys got it,
Yeah,
so beat the music and everything. But now, thanks to internet and thanks to everybody gets it, it's just a few clicks away. So we are equally influenced with Prodigy as well as Pink Floyd. So what do we do?
What a great set of influences, by the way, the Prodigy and Pink Floyd. Tell us a bit about rock music in India. I actually made a documentary called India Rocks. This is now, I would say, 7 or 8 years ago. Back then, it was blowing me away just how different India was from the 90s version of India in terms of rock music. So give us a bit of a state of the nation in 2012. If you're a young 15-year-old kid, what kind of rock would influence you, and how would rock music be in your life in India these days?
Oh, I think 15, 16-year-old kids all over the world on iPod shuffle mode, Because gone are the days when they would want to know anything much about a particular genre. And, it's click. And even when we speak to record labels, they said, you need to have your hook there in 2 seconds flat, otherwise the kid is going to surf your song out, So I'd say post this movie Rock On, a lot of things have changed for Indians, the way they look at rock musicians, or even musicians for that matter of fact. The band in India was always a Shadiwala band or something, initially. If you had to really explain to someone what a rock band was. But thanks to television and movies, now everybody is using the word rock. In the 90s, I remember, we were not supposed to use the word rock if you wanted to play gigs. They would say that don't call yourself a rock band, just call yourself a band, you might just get some work. But today, everybody is a rock star in India. The president's a rock star. So nowadays, you're just one amongst the many, many guys who want to play music, and it's so much there. But I guess it'll take a while for this to settle down and the really true classic veteran musicians to be, seen and visible. And it's slowly happening. So, yeah.
And I'm going to ask you this question. I actually ask this of every musician in India or Pakistan, but especially India. And that question is how do you even survive when the monolithic monster they call Bollywood eats up everything?
I think for survival, I would say, to be very honest, firstly, you need to be blessed. I guess if you're born to a pretty good home where, you don't have to go and luckily fend for yourself, that's when you can really do alternate music, or I'm one of the blessed people. My mom always wanted me to be a musician, and, so I could pursue that, and I'm not under much of a pressure. But those guys who are, there are a lot of venues for them. They can play, but then, they've been playing 6 nights in the same place for the last 15 odd years, and it's really not possible for them to break out and cut an album or something. Or gigs now, there are a lot of colleges, they have, a lot of festivals keep happening, but jingles and ads, that's what I would do more often. I've done a lot of work in terms of doing soundtracks for National Geographic, and I have a partner here, so that keeps us going. Now, I think in the last 2 years, you can be a band and you can survive playing because the rates have all skyrocketed, and the whole world is looking at India in some way or the other, So it's a good time, actually.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Deepak. What I want you to do now, we're going to play Danha, okay? I know the album Karma is your 2012 album. Just give us a bit of an idea of the sound of the album Karma, and then I'll let you introduce Danha yourself.
All right. Like I said, we were 10 days in a studio in Germany, and it was done purely out of passion. Excellent musicians, that's what all our songs would portray. The drummer was one of the best I knew. The sound would be something, we call it deep dish rock. It's melancholic.
It's definitely a very melancholy track, Danha. It kind of reminds me of a rainy day, remembering an old lost love, and just kind of going,
ooh, that's the whole feel to the whole album. Even if it's a fast-paced song, it has a melancholic touch to it, and it is all about asking questions. And it's a very restless album. And one more thing is that you got to keep hearing it to love it. Like the good old Led Zeppelin albums or something, or even Floydin albums. The more you heard them, the more you somehow got to it. So I guess it's a new beginning for us, and I hope. Thank you so much for this entire thing.
So we will be playing your music, and not just Danha, but other tracks from you for the rest of the week anyway. So thanks for coming on the show, Deepak.
Thank you so much.
More power to punk with an H on the end, and I hope the future is wide open and full of no jingles for you.
Inshallah. Thank you.
BBC introduced.
So, seriously, give it a real listen. This is Punk, and the track's Danha. Get the actions out if you want it. You've been listening to this week's BBC Introducing Artists. They are called Punk. You've just heard their track Danha, and I just want to say, I think they're brilliant. Great musicians, you can hear that already with the music. But I love the fact that they've chosen, at least on that track, to sing in an Indo language. I kind of feel like I've met a lot of rockers out in India. Rockers is most probably not the right word, but a lot of rock bands out in India. And there is quite a lot of, do we really want to sing in the mother tongue? Doesn't really work with rock music, doesn't really make sense. And then you kind of hear other bands producing in the mother tongue, and a lot of the time the music's really watered down. There's a real need, I feel, for them to be accepted by the mainstream industry and Bollywood. What I really like about these guys is they haven't sold out in terms of their rock music. They're great musicians. There's a real difference in how they sing, and they take those Western kind of melodies and apply them to their mother tongue. So I love that, and I want you guys at home to spread the word about them. Well, that's why we do introducing, so listen very carefully. This week's introducing artists are a band called Punk from New Delhi. We spoke to the lead singer Deepak yesterday. They've been around for years, but it's only over the last couple of years I think they've really found their footing and found their sound. They definitely love their rock music. They talk about influences like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, all of those kind of classic artists in rock music, but they also love people like Junoon and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. So that's a pretty interesting mix, which, by the way, you're actually going to hear now in the kind of music they make and the kind of lyrics that they write. Yesterday when I spoke to Deepak, he spoke about Karma, which is the current album. It came out this year, 2012, and I've actually got the lead track from that album, and I've got it to play to you right now. If you're not usually into rock music, if you're not usually into rock music that has Hindi vocals, I urge you to listen, and listen very carefully, because this could be the band that totally tips it the other way for you.
BBC introducing
3 minutes and 31 seconds of new Indian rock music now. You are listening to BBC Introducing. That was this week's introducing artist, Punkh from New Delhi.
BBC introducing.
And it's time for BBC Introducing now. So this week's BBC Introducing artist has been, and I shouldn't really say artist, artistes have been the band Punkh, okay? They're a rock band from New Delhi, and I think the best way to describe them is they channel all the great rock bands into a kind of Indian, Hindi language vibe, alright? I wouldn't really say they sound a lot like the rock bands that have been coming out of India or Pakistan over the last 20 years, in the sense that they don't really kind of water down the rock, and at the same time, they don't really sound like a lot of the new bands that are coming out of India and Pakistan at the moment, who essentially are rock itself, to the point where they lose their Indianness or their Pakistaniness or their Asianness, whatever you want to call it. What they kind of do is strike a perfect balance between all those different demands from their listeners and on what they do as artists. So I've got a track called Karma. You may have already heard it this week. I think most of you won't have. And this is a perfect example of what Punkh do as a band. They are this week's BBC Introducing artist. I will be revealing who we're going to be celebrating via BBC Introducing straight after this.
BBC introducing.
So that was Punkh. A whole week of Punkh here on BBC Introducing on The Friction Show. I hope you enjoyed them all week. I hope you're now going to go out and make them India's biggest rock band. I hope you're going to listen to their music and spread the word about them. That's why we do BBC Introducing. It's not just about me kind of going, hey, here's my latest squeeze when it comes to music. It's actually about us as the BBC pushing out new artists to you guys. So you, as the real fans out there, as the people who make or break artists, can then run with those artists and make them or break them. It's all down to you guys. All you need to do, if you want to listen to more of Punkh, is go to soundcloud.com/Punkh, Punkh. The current album, Gullamar, can be listened to there, but if you also then jump to the other websites via the SoundCloud, you can also hear their 2007 album, Punkh, and their 2006 album, Goom, as well. So thank you very much, Punkh. We will continue to play you, but we now have to make sure we have a new artist for next week, and we do. And this is it.
BBC introducing. BBC introducing.
So that was Punkh with their track Danha, this week's BBC Introducing artist. What do you think then? Get in touch with the show. Text us 81869. Do you get what I mean? They sound like a lot of the rock bands that are coming out of India and Pakistan and places like that in the Asian subcontinent. But there's something else about them. They just don't sound like they're trying to get into the mainstream of rock music in the Indian and Asian subcontinent. And at the same time, they don't really sound like they're anti that and going fully to the west either. They seem to have got the balance just right. So one more tune from those guys tomorrow. If you want to hear more, all you need to do is go to soundcloud.com/punk, P-U-N-K, and then H on the end, so Punk, alright? And listen to their current album, Karma, K-A-R-M-A-H. Do it and tell me what you think.